Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our first guest grew up in Portland in a big house with long-term visitors and unusual guests that shaped her ideas of home and family. Here to share her new memoir, we welcome the author of Group Living and Other Recipes, Lola Milholland. Good to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love your book. Group Living is
Thank you.
really fascinating. I mean, obviously it's memoir, but the whole concept of living with a group of people in one house, sharing everything, is kind of a unique concept, and yet not so much, right?
Yeah, I mean, until after World War II, when both a combination of like the increase of home appliances and racist housing policies came together, people lived more collectively. The idea of people living in single-family homes is actually very new.
Yeah. So tell me how you grew up and what the situation was like. You had very unusual parents.
Yes.
Kind of hippie parents.
Yeah.
That's
I
how
had
you
two
describe
parents.
them?
I had parents who were in an open relationship, but they lived together in the house, and they were committed to raising me. And when I was young, my uncle lived with us. My grandfather lived on and off with us. We had exchange students, 20 or so when I was growing up, and then people would just come and go often. And it sounds chaotic, but it felt really secure to me. It was a home that was very welcoming to people.
Yeah. Well, who's this that we're looking at right
That's
here?
my dad, David.
Yeah. Where does he live now? He doesn't live with you now.
He lives maybe 5 blocks from me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really nearby. He loves to make me breakfast. I go there every week or so, and he makes me a big breakfast. So that was that photo.
That's awesome. So going back to growing up, at one point you come home and 3 monks are now have taken over your room.
Yeah. I found out the day they moved into the room that I was going to be giving my room to these monks, which it's so funny that that's how that went, but it was such a sweet experience of my childhood. I mean, I was really young, I was really flexible.
Right.
And they were building a sand mandala at the Portland Art Museum, and they were doing it in the public eye. It took them about 3 months. I fell completely in love with one of them. I was about 7 years old.
Oh, how cute is that?
And he was, 22, and he was the best ping pong player I've ever seen. And they were just so curious about Portland, and they learned to ride bikes on our street, and they would make us food. It was an incredibly sweet experience.
So talk to me now about continuing that tradition. So you leave for a while, you leave the house for a while, right?
Yeah.
And then you come back home, your brother's living there with roommates.
Yeah.
And you decide, I do want to do part of this group living.
You know, I think at first it wasn't so much of a conscious decision. I was 22 years old, I'd graduated college, I didn't have a lot of money. I was working a job that didn't pay me very much, and the house seemed like a really warm and welcoming place. And I loved the culture that my brother was building with his friends, focused around food and just having a sweet time with each other, taking care of each other. So I moved in at 22, and I don't think I was looking that far into the future, but I moved in 2007, the year of the recession.
Yeah.
And jobs just disappeared.
Oh, for sure.
And I had a pretty secure job. I was slowly making my way up in a nonprofit that had a food magazine, and it seemed like, why would I go anywhere? I should just stay here. And that process kind of, I was like a broth condensing on the stove, like getting more and more to be myself, and stayed in the house. And then suddenly I found myself in a serious relationship. I'm older, and it seems like, isn't this the time I'm supposed to move out and get my own home and get a mortgage? But all those things had become increasingly difficult. Housing in Portland was really expensive.
It is really
Continues
expensive.
to be really expensive. We have an economy that doesn't allow people to have what we consider the classic American dream. And on top of that, I didn't really want to move out. Like, I loved living in that household. And so I decided to stay. And I think now I'm almost 40, and I have continued to stay. And I think that's what feels unusual to me, but it actually is less unusual in America than you think. More people are living with adult roommates than we talk about.
Right. Okay, so describe your house. We just saw a picture. It's beautiful. It's called the Holman House because it's on Holman Street.
Yeah.
Right? In the Piedmont neighborhood? Okay. And you have 5 bedrooms, right? And so you have how many roommates at this point? So it's you and your boyfriend.
4 of us right now, and then my mom comes and stays with us frequently. So in the house at this very moment, 5 living in our own little
There's
community.
Zach right there.
Yeah,
or Corey.
that's Corey.
Your boyfriend,
Yeah,
Corey.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And then the people have come and go. In the summer, we always have someone staying with us at some point. So it's 2 friends came up from LA and stayed with us for a month.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And so, but how do you do that? So you rent the house from your mom.
Yes.
She still owns it.
Yes.
You rent the house from her. How do you do, I think in communal living, you have to be, and it's not a commune, but it's communal living, right?
Yeah.
Somebody has to be dealing with the bills.
It's true. We definitely have roles. My brother deals with the bills. He posts them. Each of us pay for different things, and we report them back to him. There is accountability and responsibility. But I never wanted to live in a house that was super duper bureaucratic. And in family homes, we can think about single family homes or multi-parent homes. Somebody is playing a role, and it's just one or two adults. I mean, we have 4 adults who are pretty highly functioning, so we can definitely get things done. And you have a plumbing emergency, and if no one's home, that's such a horrible thing. But in a house with 4 adults, there's someone who's probably going to be home, and they know who to call.
Right. Before these roommates became your roommates, was there like a vetting process to go through and say, this is how this household works? What are your habits? That kind of thing?
No, and I love that question because I think kind of a joke. The book is called Group Living and Other Recipes, and people are like, oh, there must be one recipe for group living, and I don't think that there is. There are communal homes in Portland that definitely have like strong rules and codes and cultural guidelines to make sure everyone in that household feels safe, and I really respect that. Ours is a little bit more anarchic, like a little more of an anarchy, and we just lived together for a long time, and sometimes things happen very naturally, and I think of the chemistry between 2 people who might be falling in love. I mean, I think that kind of chemistry can exist between friends, and you can build that over time. So there has not been one process that we put someone through.
Yeah. You talk about recipes. You have some recipes that you put in there that look really good.
Yeah. Well, any community, any communal home, any church group is going to center a lot of things around food.
Right.
So
dinner time is great.
Yeah, right. It's the time you're always together and giving and receiving and sharing your lives with each other. So I wanted to include recipes from people who I love and who gave them to me that I could then give back out. So an offering that I received that I could share.
Do you share the role of cooking, or is there like a day you cook on Tuesdays and Thursdays?
We don't. We have family meal on Sundays often, which we didn't for years, and then at one point my roommate Chris, who's a super talented Thai cook, said I want to do dinner on Sundays, and we all said sure. But mostly we just take turns. We're very communicative with each other, and if you cook for everyone, and you buy the groceries, but if you can't afford them, you ask people to throw in.
Gotcha.
And so if you're eating dinner at the house, you're eating it with everyone who's there. People don't separate and eat their own individual meals.
Interesting, absolutely fascinating. The book again is called Group Living and Other Recipes. You have a book event tonight at Pals, which is pretty cool. That's at 10th and West Burnside. We'll put all the information on our website at katu.com. Lola, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.